Facebook, Twitter, Google, and Microsoft have reportedly agreed to police everyone using the EU hate speech rules. Oh, ain't that cute? Let's explore. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. Alright, so basically the unelected bureaucracy in Brussels, about which exactly no sane person gives a flying toss, has decided that there is an urgent need for the speech of your average Joe on the internet to be policed harsher because ISIS exists, or some stupidity like that. The announcement was made by a Czech woman, Věra Jourová, who is allegedly the EU Commissioner for Justice, Consumers and Gender Equality. Now, did any of you ever heard of Věra Jourová? No? I bet that if I ask 100 people in Prague about her, less than a third would be able to say that they had at least heard of this vacuous cunt, let alone know anything else about her. Or, maybe I could be wrong, since she is one of the few Czech politicians that actually served jail time for taking bribe in connection to, you guessed it, sucking up EU funds. In fact, with trivial exceptions, all European Commissions in the last 20 years have been rife with either former communists, KGB agents, people who've served jail time for fraud, corruption or embezzlement, or people who subscribe to political views that make Stalin look like quite a swell chap. Anyway, since this is the Commissioner for Gender Equality, we all know what to expect from the mindless cunt, and it's not really anything different than what we've seen so far, especially on Facebook, which is the most progressive social media outlet, beating Twitter and YouTube hands down in terms of censorship and bollocks enforcement of bollocks rules. Now, the posh cucks from Brussels, such as the European Digital Rights Advocacy Group, who purportedly have the user's interest at heart, whilst being paid by the same censors in Brussels. Anyway, these people have criticized the measure not for its outright illiberal fucktardery, but because, you see, their sorry, irrelevant asses were excluded from the deliberation, and that the process was, quote, established outside of an accountable democratic framework. As if that matters, or as if anyone genuinely gives a fuck. Because here's the deal. Even if this criticism had been established inside of an accountable democratic framework, it would have still been wrong. Nobody cares about the democratic framework when it comes to basic liberties, you pretentious twat. When my country was about to have a PC law passed, nobody gave a flying toss if it were under a democratic framework or not. And it was still stricken down no matter how many people agreed with it. Because with free speech, it's like with pregnancy. You're either pregnant or you're not. You either have freedom of expression or you don't. There is no moderation or middle ground. You pretentious muppets. Anyway, the most important aspect to be remembered whenever you see these kinds of stories is that such policies are not only insane for the obvious reasons that I won't get into again, but they're unenforceable. Such policies are only enforceable for people who don't really care about their rights anyway. But how will they enforce it on, people like me, who don't really give a flying toss about EU laws of any kind? I mean, what? They're gonna ban my Facebook account? Which one of the over 100 of them? They're gonna delete my Twitter account? Really? Which one of the over 50 of them? They're gonna delete my YouTube channel? Again, which one? And how long does it take to establish a new one? It would take me less than 6 hours to upload all of the videos again. Though, to be fair, YouTube has been very, very kind to me all the time in the last year. I mean, social justice wankers and other degenerates have reported my videos several hundred times already, And not once has YouTube bothered me and simply told the SJWs to mind their own business and cease watching my videos if it offends them that much. Which is exactly what I expect from YouTube, really. Now, I don't expect Google to like my videos. Hell, I even understand when they suspend monetization on some of my videos, particularly those pertaining to diversity, progress, multiculturalism, cultural enrichment, and youth violence. After all, they didn't promise to monetize all the videos, they just promised that they'll leave me alone. Which they do. And their rules say that if a video becomes unavailable in a country, they suspend monetization. And, Germany routinely censors YouTube videos, so, yeah, really, I really have no objections so far. Now, speaking of Germany and cultural enrichment, at least 26 girls were culturally enriched at the Open Air Music Festival in Germany a few days ago. Those doing the enrichment are, of course, youths of South Asian origin, as the ever-reliable German media reports. Now, if you think this may have actually been yet another episode of Taharush Jinsi, you would of course be correct, but you'd also be a racist. Because we all know that these things happen all the time, and it could very well be a gang of South Korean rapists. We all know that there is an endemic problem with Asians all over Europe, don't we? You see, this is the problem with these codes of conduct. They're easily being made into a mockery of themselves, and I, for one, have seen this movie before, as we say around here. You see, back in the 80s, at the peak of communist censorship, these kinds of euphemisms were the central points of any comedy gig. For instance, there was a comedy piece by a humor group in which they had to mention $20 and compare them with 20 Russian rubles. And the censorship committee told them not to use dollars, but instead use Japanese yen or, quote, any other currency. Just don't say dollars on the stage. So what they did was to literally say 20 any other currency on the stage, which made the joke even more appreciated by the public and the absurdity of the speech rules even more obvious to the public. That is usually the fate of any ridiculous speech code. It becomes easily subverted and a mockery of itself. But it goes even beyond that. When it comes to the internet, enforcing these is essentially impossible. Even now, if you go on Facebook and write anything that is not in English, there is no way Facebook can even properly evaluate. Even if it directly infringes their terms of service in the most blatant way possible, they won't remove it. Because they don't have nowhere near enough people that can evaluate complaints over posts that are not in English. And mind you, most posts on Facebook are not in English. At all. And at least a third of them, if not more, are not even written in Latin. Who the hell is going to police that thing? I mean, just on Facebook alone, 510 comments are posted every minute. 293,000 statuses are updated every minute. And 136,000 photos are uploaded every minute. Oh, and at least 5 billion articles, that's 5,000 million articles, are shared every day on Facebook. The idea that you can police all of these things for hate speech is laughable. And no, you can't do it via an algorithm either. I mean, Facebook tried it and it failed miserably. And it will continue to fail because, at least for now, the technology to analyze messages in 50 different languages to see if it's hateful or not, whatever that means, simply doesn't exist. Which is why Facebook does most of its policing with actual humans stacked in sweatshops in India. So just think about the amount of manpower that would be needed to police all these things just for the European Union alone. And wait, it gets worse. The position in which these companies are being placed is even worse than that. After all of these companies are, still bound to the market, whether they like it or not, and they usually don't. I mean, YouTube, for instance, isn't the only video sharing platform out there. Facebook isn't the only social media platform. Twitter already doesn't count anymore. I mean, have you seen their stock prices? And they're going down, and for bloody good reason. And there are competitors on the block, basically. I mean, have you ever heard of VKontakte? You know, it's just like Facebook, but with less censorship. Now, admittedly, going on VKontakte, you trade being spied upon by the NSA to being spied upon by the Federalная служба безопасности Российской Федерации, formerly known as the KGB. But the upside of it is that nobody really gives a fuck about what you post. And when tested for security bugs, it's really not that different from Facebook, and if you really know what you're doing, its inherent connection to the KGB can be shut down easier than the vast web of connections that puts the average Facebook user at the disposal of the NSA. And the security experts in Europe really do know this all too well, and the folks at Google and Facebook also know this. So now these companies have a very tough choice. They either comply with the EU nonsense and risk losing even more of its share of the market to competitors who don't care and don't have to care about what the EU says, or they just say they will comply and then do nothing about it, which is exactly what YouTube has been doing so far. I mean, YouTube in particular not only tolerates but actively promotes and monetizes content that is allegedly illegal in the cucked portion of Europe. And whenever they're asked about it, they do what I would do if I were in their place. They're basically saying, yeah, we'll take care of it, we'll see what we can do, and then they will do nothing about it. Which is the correct way of pursuing this. So, to sum up, I am completely unsurprised by these latest attempts by the European Union of Soviet Socialist republics to censor speech on the internet, but I'm also completely unworried about their effects. I mean, Facebook has been in a censorious rampage even way before this, and they'll probably have to learn the hard way that this is a bad idea. Twitter will probably no longer be with us by the end of this decade anyway, and YouTube has been more than fair until now, and I doubt that this will radically change anytime soon, because it is in their financial interest to err on the side of free speech most of the time. Now, if YouTube won't play it nice and decide to go full Macintosh, which again I don't think it will happen, then I'll see what I'll do then. But meanwhile, because I don't know exactly when I'll publish this video, I've had some fun with the hashtag #IStandWithHateSpeech. I guess we'll have to wait and see how Twitter reacts to that one. Anyway, with all of that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon on Freedom Alternative.